Of course, this afternoon, opening day in Toronto, the Orioles begin the season taking on the Blue Jays, Zach Eflin and Jose Barrios. And if it's Orioles Blue Jays, that means we need to catch up with one of our absolute favorite humans, former Orioles catcher, Blue Jays TV analyst, and noted impressionist. Our buddy Caleb Joseph is back with us on GCR. What's up, dude? How are you?
Yeah, doing great. Excited for the season to finally be kicking off. I'm sure the players are pumped that spring training is over, and I am excited for not only the Blue Jays, but also to see this Oriole team get after it.
All right, so before we get into baseball, because I always have you do Duquette, but is there like another impression that you're actually more proud of? Like, is there one that you're like, dude, why have you never asked me to do this one?
Well, the voice impersonation of Duquette is the best. If we were live and I was like doing a Zoom with you, I could do Buck taking out a pitcher and banging him with his finger gun, or I could do old AAA manager Ron Johnson. He was walking. I was more of an impressionist with actions. The voice is the only one with Duquette that I'm going to get at. But, yeah, I actually spoke to Dan Duquette last week. He was trying to acquire some players for the 12-year-old rec league team in Massachusetts.
God, I love that so much. Notoriously, we've known Anthony Santander to be like typically a little bit of a slower starter to the season. I am terrified that he's actually going to hit like 8 home runs this weekend just to shove it up our butts. I love Anthony. I think a truly great dude. Obviously, a heck of a baseball player. How excited are you to have him in Toronto?
Yeah, super excited. He's kind of the 4-hole hitter, so to speak, that the Blue Jays have been looking for quite some time. And I know that he might not even be hitting fourth tomorrow. It's a possibility that he's hitting third. But he brings that presence behind Vladimir Guerrero Jr., as everyone knows in Baltimore, that switch-hitting presence. I've just been so impressed watching him over the years, his maturity with his at-bats. He knows when to ambush. He knows when he's hunting a certain pitch. He knows when he's looking up or down, a very refined approach. And I did not see that early on. Of course, he was very young when he got over to the Orioles as a Rule 5 pick. But, man, to watch him progress and to get bigger, stronger, and smarter, the Blue Jays are now reaping the benefits of all that hard work, and they need him. They need him badly. I know you said, he doesn't hit 10 home runs, but the Blue Jays need him to hit 10 home runs in this first series. They really have got to get him off to a good start. Blue Jays have got to start off hot. It's just imperative.
Caleb, the other thing about Anthony, right, that like when he was here, he truly became a leader. Like he went from a guy that barely spoke the language to he actually did a phone interview with us last season where like Brandon didn't even have to like help in any way. Like he had such command and he became such a leader for that group. I know guys don't show up in a place and immediately like become that guy on day one. And I know there's plenty of established guys there in Toronto, but how much can he be valuable to the team in that way, given the man that he's become within this sport?
Yeah, great question. And I actually talked to Bo Bichette about that in spring training, and he was just ranting and raving about his ability to connect with every player on the team, and especially connect with kind of the younger Latin players on the squad, and just his connection with Vladdy in general. And that's just important. And I remember going down to winter ball and being out of the country, being one of kind of the minority in terms of, Americans playing in Venezuela. And you just sort of gravitated towards people you could speak the language with. And Tony is not only doing that with his, native countrymen, but he's found a way to learn the language and be able to integrate and talk to anybody, talk to Bo Bichette, talk to any of his English-speaking teammates in a way that makes them better. And that enhances the contract for me. He's obviously going to be a stalwart in the middle of the order, but his ability to lead has been very obvious early in spring training, and I don't expect anything to change throughout the season.
God, he rules, man. I'm such a Tony Santander fan. All right, let's see, you bring it up, the need to get off to a quick start. The sort of unspoken part, I know there's been a lot of consternation in Toronto about Vlad's contract and it not getting done and what that means. And is that sort of setting the tone for, hey, there's no time to waste here. It's kind of, I don't want to say now or never because it's not like he's the only player on the roster, but like this season has to matter because of that. And if it gets off to a slow start, then it could mean that the Blue Jays start looking to move Vlad Guerrero.
Yep, there's been a lot of people covering the Blue Jays that believe this could be an 80-game season for them. If they're totally wiped out of it, they're obviously going to sell, and their window would officially probably be closed, as they would look to probably let go of Vlad, let go of Bo Bichette, who is an impending free agent. They have aging starting pitchers that would bring a lot of value to other clubs, but would also bring value next season if the Blue Jays got off to a good start and they found a way to retain Vlad, found a way to retain Bichette. You just kind of keep that window open. So it is massive for the Blue Jays to really get out to a great start. And it's just a great time to do it with all of the injuries in the AL East. You want to try and get a leg up as best as you can before all these teams get healthy and try and make them play catch up. I remember season after season, playing catch up is hard. It's just tough. You feel like you have to sweep every single series just to start clawing and fighting back. And so it's a pivotal moment in this organization and how they're going to go about the next 2 or 3 years based off of, in my opinion, what happens in the first 50, 60 games of this season.
Caleb Joseph is with us on GCR. Caleb, with that said, every time I look at the Blue Jays, like on paper, I say, God, there's a lot to like about this team, right? Like I feel like I do this every year where I look and I say, man, you just brought up that they're all the veterans in the rotation and how comfortable you can be with them. And it's not just Vlad. And why is it that this team, for everything they have, hasn't been able to fully put it all together? And what does it take for this to be the year where it all gets fully put together?
Yeah, I'm not sure they've hit enough. You go back to some of their really successful campaigns back when I was playing with the Orioles against them. They had 1 through 9 lineup that absolutely mashed. Russell Martin, Troy Tulowitzki, Josh Donaldson, Devin Travis, Justin Smoke, Kevin Pillar, Bautista, Encarnacion. I mean, those are bats.
Yeah, we like to try to forget about some of that history. We just try to pretend like none of like specifically a certain game in 2016 never occurred. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I can still feel the stadium shaking in my bones to this day. It's a nightmare. But they hit. And you look back at the 2021 season the Blue Jays had, they did not make the playoffs, but they absolutely hit, and their bullpen just totally let them down. They then found a way to secure the bullpen. They really revamped their starting pitching, and then the hitting went south. And so they just haven't been able to really put all three facets together. When they have hit a little bit, which they did a little bit last year, their bullpen just totally abandoned them. So it is just finding that window where you can get all three phases moving in the right direction. I do think that they're one bat short this year unless someone comes out and is a really pleasant surprise. I don't think anybody is wondering if Andres Jimenez, a recent trade acquisition from Cleveland, is going to come out and put up an 800 OPS. But if he did, there's your pleasant surprise. Sure. Can Alejandro Kirk, can he get back to 2022 Kirk? It's possible. Can Varsho turn into the type of player that I think they envisioned him when they traded Gabriel Moreno to Arizona for him? There's just a lot of if-thens and what-if statements, and that's where they're at. If they can get those contributions, hang in there enough to get to the trade deadline, and then acquire that other big bat, they might be onto something.
Caleb, you bring up the bullpen. What are the chances that the new closer ends up like in a fist fight with somebody wearing orange this weekend? What are the chances that like all of that spills over and the emotions really start coming out?
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen until it happens, right?
Yeah.
But every season is new, and even though baseball players have the longest memories of any athlete, in my opinion, when you're on a new team and sometimes you try and bury the hatchet just for the sake of the team, right?
Whew.
And so
doesn't seem
you internally, kind of have it in there, but you're trying to keep it in and just use that as an aggression out on the field.
I understand that. Away from how much Jeff Hoffman hates the Orioles, and look, I get it. How imperative is it? You just referenced this, right? Like, how imperative is it that he solidifies that back end for what you're talking about, the need for the Blue Jays to get off this great start.
Yeah, it's pretty imperative. They obviously traded. Well, not traded. It acted as if a trade in Jordan Romano going to Philadelphia, Hoffman coming to Toronto, basically closer for closer. And I really feel like he's going to come in and kind of be that leader in the bullpen. They do have Chad Green down there who has had a really sneaky good spring training, and he is a tough pitcher. And I remember facing him in New York, and he is, when he's on, he is tough. And they've got pieces down there that I think Hoffman kind of allows the other bullpen pieces to slot where they need to slot and be more complete. And I love experience in big games on the back end. When Zach Britton was closing games for us, we just trusted him because he had been in so many big moment games. I feel like Hoffman is that type of closer. So many playoff experiences that he's been through that, a bases loaded jam in the ninth inning in June isn't going to rattle him because he's played in the playoffs. And so those type of things I think are intangibles that are super valuable. He is going to be a big piece of this puzzle. If he can really lock down that 9 spot, keep them intact, it allows those other guys to be even better because they can start to mix and match and slot guys where they want to get the best out of them.
Hey, what do you make of what happened with Adley in the second half of last season, Caleb? And are you at the point where you say, yeah, it's a new season, I expect Adley Rutschman is Adley Rutschman, all's good, or are you as interested in that as we are, like seeing him prove that what happened in the second half of last season was either related to something physical or whatever it might have been, that it's just a blip on the radar for him?
Yeah, I believe it's a blip on the radar. I just believe in his ability so much. And I remember doing his major league debut here in Toronto. I think I was doing a radio. And quite honestly, I was at that point not 100% sure if the bat would be as good as it was the following year. He really kind of took a huge step. I thought his movements and his work behind the plate was major league ready, no question. I saw him interacting with pitchers. I thought this guy is well ahead, and he's going to buy himself some time to figure out the bat. Catching is hard. It is really, really difficult. And when you are on a team that is expected to win and you are learning new pitchers and you're having some struggles here and there with the pitching staff, especially with younger pitchers, you are mentally drained. And you look at the stats that they had outside of Corbin Burns over the last couple of years. It's been a lot of younger guys with that veteran sprinkled in here and there. But it's been a lot of younger guys, and it drains you trying to get multiple starters through major league games and through major league seasons trying to figure it out. I do think that the veterans that the Orioles have this year in Charlie Morton, in Eflin, now even signing of Kyle Gibson, it's going to allow him to just relax and let them call their game, and you just catch the ball and throw it back, buddy, which will then allow him to really, truly focus on his offense and be less stressed. And that mental stress wears you out more than physical stress. Imagine playing a game of chess for 3 hours. You're going to be exhausted. I would rather play a 14-inning baseball game brainless and just be physically exhausted than be mentally exhausted. And so I think when you look at last year, a lot of it probably, in my opinion, is just mental exhaustion. Sorry.
No,
I feel like he's going to bounce back. I really do.
It's something that I hadn't thought about a lot, man. But when you say that, like I completely. It's funny because the only sport I was ever really good at was tennis, right? And I would say that, like, well, physically you would run, but the truth was when you weren't talking, like when you were just sort of in your own thoughts for a little while. It's why I hate running, right? Like I hate being in my own head for a long time. I just hate it. Like after a little while, I'm like, I got to get out of here. I got to stop, man. And so it's a really incredible thought. I bring this up. I know that everybody's different, and sometimes you want to talk. You brought up Zach a minute ago. Like when he was on with us a couple weeks ago, I asked him if he wanted to share anything about Brian Mattis, and he was so thoughtful about it. And I love Brian on a personal level. Like he kept checking in with me over the years. He was just that nice of a guy. I wonder if there's anything that you could share with the Orioles fans about your buddy Brian Mattis that you would want them to know.
Yeah, Brian was such an amazing friend and teammate to me. A lot of people don't realize that I stayed with Brian. He opened up his house, his apartments, his rentals to me on 3 separate occasions.
Wow.
and he did not have to. And so I lived with him, and remember like it was yesterday, my very first year in Baltimore, 2014, my wife and I were staying at I think it's the Marriott in left center field. And Brian found out we were staying there, and he said, "Hey, why are you guys staying at the hotel? Just come hang out with me. I've got a town, row home or whatever. I got a whole bottom level. Just let's hang out." And I remember that season feeling more normal by being in like a house. And I know it might sound simple, but he offered up his house. He didn't have to. And his ability to just be selfless and giving still to this day is noticeable. And it is such a sad story for such a genuinely nice guy. And it's hard to imagine really that it's actually real. And I went to his funeral in Arizona, and it still just doesn't really seem real. I know it sounds odd, but he was a great friend, and he cared about the Orioles, and he loved his time with Baltimore in terms of how the fans treated him. He was so involved with Casey Cares, and he just did a lot of good. And I hope that Orioles fans know how much he loved them, and what a great friend. It's just such a sad story.
Thank you for sharing that, man. And I've been thinking about everybody, and you're 100% right. And what a good guy Brian was, and would constantly be just checking in to say hello, which he never had to do, and it meant the world. Caleb, speaking of good guys, you're always the best, my friend. I hope you enjoy opening day, and we look forward to seeing a bunch of you this season. Always appreciate you, brother. Thank you for hopping on with us this morning.
Okay, you got it. Anytime.